Hare Krishna, Namaste.
Chapter 13 is entitled as Kṣetraඥa Yoga, also as Prakriti Purusha Vibhaga Yoga, also as Prakriti Purusha Viveka Yoga. Sloka 6 and 7, Part 3. mahā-bhūtāny ahaṅkārah buddhir avyaktam ca indriyāṇi daśaikaṁ ca pañca cendriya-gocarāḥ icchā dveṣaḥ sukhaṁ duḥkhaṁ saṅghātaś cetanā dhṛtiḥ etat kṣetraṁ samāsena sa-vikāram udāhṛtam. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. In the previous session, we learned about Prakriti. It creates this world because of our karma, so that it can bind us in this samsara based on our sins and merits, our karma. Therefore, the Prakriti is the cause for the creation, but it creates because of our karma. We perform some karma, and that karma creates a good reaction and bad reaction. For one to experience these good and bad reactions, one has to have a place, and that place is provided by the Prakriti. That means these two goes hand in hand, the creation and the karma. It's like the seed and the plant. Whether the seed comes first or the plant comes first. In this similar logic, they both go in hand for a very long period of time. We also learned that the Prakriti does 3 things to us. The first one is to make us think that we are this body, dehatma abhimana. The second one is cendriya-abhimana, meaning making us to think we are independent. And the third is to think about the Prakriti as a place of supreme bliss, enjoyment. So it shows itself to be greater than anything else. Then we also saw the lakshana of Prakriti. What is the outstanding quality of the Prakriti, feature of the Prakriti? That is, the Prakriti has 3 modes, sattva, rajas and tamas. They are all in their equal level. It's not sattva is higher and the rest is lower, or it's not that tamas is higher, the rest is lower. All the 3 are in their equal level. That is Prakriti. And this is the stage during the pralaya, destruction period. Now, let's see what happens next. When the time comes for creation, the Lord glances over the Prakriti, which agitates a portion of Prakriti that has 3 modes. Now, the agitation happens to these 3 modes which loses their equality. That means some difference happens in their level. They are no more in an equal state at that point. And we have to note an important point here. Is not the entire Prakriti is agitated. A portion of it is agitated, leaving the rest of the portion as it is. So the Prakriti always exists as it is. A portion of Prakriti is what now agitated and has lost its equality. And that stage or that transformation where the agitation takes place, where the equality is lost between these three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, is called avyaktam. And this is the starting point of creation. Let's take an example. A lump of mud or a clay is taken and used for making different articles like a water pot or a jug or playing toys or a lamp. So the clay or a mud is made into different forms. And likewise, the Prakriti takes different forms, and that is called creation. When these different articles are broken, then they come into its original state of a lump of mud or a clay. Likewise, at the time of destruction, all this different transformation it went through or reversed back and becomes one with Prakriti. When these playing toys, which is made of a clay, a water pot and a lamp, is broken down, destroyed, then they are no more called as a lamp or a toy or a pot. It's now called a lump of clay. Likewise, at the time of Pralaya, what happens is all these different things which was created, this universe, the bodies that we see, the senses, everything, they all lose their name, shape, and then becomes back to the Prakriti, the original form. At that point of time, they go back to maintaining, the Prakriti is now maintains its stability, the equal level among the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. But its byproduct that get created from the Prakriti, they do not maintain the three gunas equally. It depends on the object. The three gunas varies. Some object may have higher degree of sattva guna and lower degree of tamo guna and rajo guna, whereas some other object may have rajo guna more and tamo guna and sattva guna less. So when it comes to a pralaya stage, the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, becomes to its normal state. They maintain their equality. Now, what we are going to see today is the next element that get created. That's called mahān tattva. We saw the Prakriti which get agitated, and that stage is called avyaktam, and from that another dravyam, substance, get created, and that is called mahān. This is also referred by the name buddhi tattva. So let's understand what this mahān does. Its role. The manas, the mind, does three things. First is trying to understand an object. Say there is an object exists in front of me. So the knowledge travels through the mind trying to understand that object. That is called ālochana. To identify and understand, this is a water bottle, this is an orange. So that is called ālochana. The next stage, after understanding what that object is to think that this orange belongs to me. This is mine. And that is called abhimana. Making that connection to that object. And that is called abhimana. Now, the third point or a form it takes is to make a resolve, determination to obtain that object. Adhyavasaya. This is the third stage. For the mind to attain this resolve, determination, adhyavasaya, it happens with the help of mahān. Since the prakriti as a mother from which the bodies get created and all the senses including the mind, everything get created, they all have the three gunas. Likewise, they also have the feature of the mahān. And that mahān, which is on the higher layer, as something get created, the quality of mahān, that adhyavasaya, is also present within the rest of the creation that happens. And this mahān are segregated into satvika mahān, rajasa mahān, and tamasa mahān. The nature of satvika portion of mahān is dharma, which helps one to perform the dharma, the righteous things. Number 2, jnana. It provides the knowledge to differentiate between the jivatma and prakriti, and that help comes from this mahān, which is also known as buddhi. The third one is vairagya, detachment, viraga. The detachment from worldly object is also attained by this mahān. And the fourth one is aishvarya. This mahān helps us to attain certain power like Ashta Mahasiddhi and so forth. So these are the 4 things that happens from the Satvika portion of the mahān. They are dharma, jnana, viraga and aishvarya. And opposite of these are created by the other 2 gunas, tamasa and rajasa. For example, doing things which is not dharmic, and the knowledge which is lack of showing the difference between jivatma and prakriti, and attachment rather than detachment, and aishvarya to obtain Ashtamaha-siddhi rather than that to attain aishvarya for one to enjoy life over here in this world. So these are completely opposite from the Satvika mahān. So this is all about Mahat-tattva. Now there's one important thing that we have to visualize here. When we took an example of the lump of mud or clay which turned into various objects, there was nothing left. The entire mud was changed into certain different objects. But when it comes to Prakriti, it's not the same case. There's a big difference. The difference is, it's not the entire Prakriti becomes into something else. What we are going to learn now can only be imagined. It is not even possible for us to do it the way that we are going to see now. Now, the Prakriti, which transforms into these universes and different objects, all happens within that Prakriti itself. It doesn't happen outside of Prakriti. Why? Because there is nothing exists outside of it. When we speak about creation, the creation happens within Prakriti. This is a very important point. The creation does not happen outside of Prakriti. That means, what is the size of Prakriti? Prakriti has no limits. On its left side, or on the right side, or at its bottom below, there is no limits for Prakriti. It gets extended and there is no end to it. But there is a restriction above it, above the Prakriti, and that which stops on the top is where the spiritual world begins. This requires some sort of a meditation to imagine that a Prakriti which is restricted on the top, because above it is the starting point of the spiritual world. In that way, it is restricted on the top, but then there is no restriction to Prakriti of its size, any of its sides or below it. It just extended. There is no limit to it. Now, at the time of Srishti, creation, a certain portion of Prakriti is left as it is. A layer of Prakriti is left as it is. Within that, in the center, a portion of it is transformed into the avyaktam. And within that avyaktam, a portion of it is left as it is, and the rest transformed into mahān. Now, within that mahān, a certain portion of it is left as it is, and only certain portion within that mahān transforms into ahaṅkāro. So we need to imagine that the Prakriti has a big shell, and within that big shell there is a space left, and the rest is changed into mahān. Now that mahān becomes another shell within the shell called Prakriti, and this mahān has a space left within it, and a certain portion of that mahān is now transformed into ahaṅkāro. So there's a big shell called Prakriti. Within that shell there is a space, and the next is mahān, another shell, second shell, and within that second shell there is a space, and the third one is ahaṅkāro. And within that ahaṅkāro, what's next will be the discussion for our next session.
Namaste. Hare Krishna.